Good morning, everybody, and welcome back to the Manufacturing Alliance podcast. As always, I'm your host, Tony DeMakis, with Alliance Specialties in Laser Sales, where we are mold makers that don't build molds. We do everything that mold makers don't want to do. Polishing, laser welding, laser engraving, hot runner manifold repair, as well as building and selling the only complete U.S.-built laser welding and laser engraving machines for plastic injection tool rooms across America. So we're really happy to be here with you today, and we're really excited to talk with you and our guest. But before we do that, we have a golf outing coming up on September 24th. September 24th is the day. It's the day after a M.R.S, which if you haven't been to a M.R.S, it's an awesome trade show to go to for mold makers and mold builders. They're actually going to have some plastics there as well this year. And it's a nice, quaint, relaxing, intimate trade show. It's not like an NPE. It's not like a monster show. So the people you talk to actually remember that you talked to them, and you can have real engaging conversations with them, which is great. So what we're thinking is you just stick around an extra day and you come play golf with us the next day, and you do some networking, and you meet some industry professionals, and you make an impact on the lives of people that matter. So this year, the outing is benefiting our friends over at iWarriors. iWarriors is an organization that we are really proud to support because they help and support our combat wounded veterans, and that's really important to us, as you can tell by our new Alliance GI Joe shirts, inspired by GI Joe, because we care about veterans, and they're the real American heroes. And so, if you'd like more information on the golf outing, you can go to alliancelasersales.com/golf. You can register there. You can get information on the event, and you can be a sponsor, whatever it is that you would like to do to help out. And we've got plenty of space available. We're trying to fill 2 courses, 240 golfers. That's our goal. I know it's a lofty goal. We know it's a lofty goal, but it's exciting for us to give it a shot. So, and as always, this is a live show. What does that mean? That means that you can put your comments in the chat, whether that's on Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube. Go ahead and put any comments, questions, concerns that you have in the chat, and Mary Kate will relay those over, and we will discuss what you want us to talk about in real time, because this is a show for you guys to get something out of it. It's great for me to be able to talk with the guests and talk at you, but I prefer a conversation back and forth, which is why I am really, really glad to bring in our guest, Matt Guse. He is the president and owner of M.R.S. Machining in Wisconsin. So I'm going to bring Matt in. Matt, welcome to our show.
Well, I'm delighted to be here, Tony. First of all, if there's any veterans out there listening, I listened to your pre-speech here, and I just like to thank them, because without what they've done for us, both of us wouldn't be here. So Thanks to them. But yeah, it's great to be here, and I'm excited to talk a little bit more about M.R.S. and hopefully tell my story, and hopefully somebody can get something learned by it and get some good information and maybe help them down the road.
Yeah, I mean, that's what the goal of the show is, right? We were just at the AMBA conference, and I think what's unique about manufacturing as a whole is that people like you and I, right, we run businesses, but we're also more dedicated and concerned to the overall industry, especially from an American-made perspective, than just our 4 walls. We want to see this industry grow leaps and bounds, and that's one of the reasons we do the show. That's one of the reasons we get involved in the organizations and the things that we do, so that we can see manufacturing grow in America, because it's super important to the success of our country.
Oh, most definitely. And that's what I like about manufacturing, because people need things to do, and when people can start making things and seeing things being built, I mean, it kind of gives you like a high off it, and makes you feel proud when you go home at night. But there's always days where things can go wrong too. But you have to pick up those pieces and move forward.
Things are always going to go wrong. It's part of life, right? It's how you react to those things that go wrong. You can watch Batman and Rocky and all the motivational movies out, as much as you want to, and they tell you the same thing. You're going to get knocked down. You got to get yourself back up, and you got to move forward and get better from it and learn from it. And that's what running a business is to me.
Yep, that's what we're taught in officiating. the 3 F's: fail fast, fix fast, and forget fast.
Yeah.
Because when you fail fast, if you just sit there and dwell on that, your whole game's going to be corrupted, and you won't be able to be a good official. And the same thing with the business. When someone makes a bad part or makes a mistake, if you just sit there and dwell on that, you ain't going to get nowhere. You're just going to be stuck in the mud. And we're gonna fail fast, fix fast, and we're going to fix it. We're going to figure out what we did wrong.
Yep.
And we're going to get it corrected. And maybe, like I tell the coach, I maybe missed that one, but I'll clean it up. All right, I put a wrong offset in the machine. I'll fix it. And then you move on.
You're telling me that college officials have makeup calls in games?
No, we don't have makeup calls. We just admit your mistake because we're human.
That makes sense.
Yeah, and was it DPI? Was it a push? Was it a cutoff? Was it an armbar? I mean, everybody, it's all about angles.
Yep.
And that's why you got to kind of stay in shape. And if you don't have the correct angle, then you're guessing. And it's never good to guess.
No. Guess at that. My favorite commercial from the Super Bowl, I'm going back now, was the ones where I think it was Tracy Morgan, and they would ask, "Are you sure?" And they were like, "Oh, we're kind of sure." And he was like, "No, are you sure? Like, do you really know, or do you think you know? Are you guessing, or do you have proof that this is what's going on?" We use that up in our conference room in our leadership meetings a few times when people give an answer. We're like, "Are you sure?" Or are you just kind of like, "Yeah, I think this is what it is, but I don't really know."
Yeah, and it's, I guess in basketball, when you officiate basketball, it's a little more bang bang. When football, it's bang bang, but it's a little more. You always got that. Okay, you can pick that flag up sense of feeling.
Yep.
Okay, that wasn't the correct call. But in basketball, when you blow the whistle, you better have something because you don't get a drew me over. And if you make that same mistake twice in a game, or keep making that mistake, well, then you might not. You might want to try something else or fix it.
Yeah, I think they're gonna put you out pretty quick. You're gonna be out the pasture. You're not gonna have that position anymore.
Yeah, exactly.
So I want to give you huge kudos because we send out a form for information about guests that we want to have on the show, and you were the most prompt and the most thorough. So kudos to you on that one. That was impressive. Mary Kate was really happy with that. So what I want to do is I want to give you a chance to tell people who you are. Who is M.R.S. Machining, and why are we talking today? So I'm going to give you the floor, and you got yourself a little elevator speech to tell us all about you and what you got going on.
Yeah, well, first of all, I'm Matt Guse with M.R.S. Machining. I've been in the trade for 35 years now, since '86, and I got into manufacturing through working in a machine shop. Actually, it's our current building, and I was born and raised on a farm, and we did hobby farming. And my dad was a machinist on second shift, and he started out down in Ingersoll and Rockford, and then he moved to the Twin Cities, and I think he worked for Honeywell. Then he moved back to the Eau Claire area and became a machinist at Johnson Plastics. And then when that closed, he became a machine shop at a place called Cardinal Manufacturing way back in the day. And we moved to town, and I was in 8th grade, and I ended up working at a gas station. And one day, my dad said, "Hey, they're looking for someone to clean the shop floor." And that sounded a little more better than pumping gas and dealing with customers. So I took on the job, and I could do it after school. So that was even better yet. So I started sweeping the floor, wiping the machines. And while I was doing that, I got to see things being made. And I'm like, this is really cool. And that's just like when CNCs actually first hit the floor, and they're actually still tape machines. If anybody on here can remember that, they're a little 1-inch, little bunch of dots. And I seen the guy loading it, and there's a couple of guys in that second shift that just kind of took me underneath my wing and started showing me things. Well, my junior year, there was a guy that took vacation or didn't show up or something, and they asked me if I could run this horizontal machining center. I looked at them like, "You kidding me?" And no way. He goes, "Oh no, it's real easy. You just put this, wrench it down, and you hit that green button." Well, I can do that, I guess. And well, could you do it for the next week? And I said, sure. So I actually ended up working a second shift, like 3 to 11. And I was making these little ball valves, and they were putting little slots in them. And I get down and I have to deburr them. And apparently I did a pretty good job. They asked me to keep doing it for the rest of the month, and I kind of enjoyed it, but I didn't know what's this G and M stuff, G and M code stuff, and that's just to turn things on and give it position and moves, and I'll teach you that. So this one guy taught me. His name was Bob, and he's a really good guy, and I really got interested in him. So the owner of the company told me, hey, I'll send you to school, and I'll pay for it. And I'm like, whoa, that's even better yet. So I signed up, got ready for school. I did my senior year in high school. I come after I played sports a lot, and unfortunately, in that spring, he got killed in a car accident, and so that was kind of disturbing. And his family wanted nothing to do with the business, and he liked to spend a lot of money. He didn't know what a balance. I don't know. He didn't know what a budget was, and he was about ready to go bankrupt anyway. So they closed the doors. They came in at 2:00 in the afternoon. They wanted everybody stopped out by 5. Well, at that time there was some very expensive material. There was some Monel, Inconel, Hasselite that the customers provided. So they asked my dad if they could store it in his garage, and my dad said sure. So he loaded up the truck and we threw it in his garage. And about 2 days later, they called my dad and said, "Well, what are you doing now?" And he's like, "Well, I'm going to be laid off on unemployment, probably going to go look for a job. And is there any way you could finish those parts for us?" And they were pretty simple. They were round parts with some snap ring grooves and some flats on there. And he said, "Well, I'll give it a shot." And to this day, I tell people I have no idea how he did it. I one time I remember correctly, he had like 9 indicators on a little self-bend lathe on top of a bench top. Somehow he ended up doing it. And he did a good job. And they asked him, "Hey, can you continue making these for us?" And my dad said, "Well, sure." And all of a sudden my dad goes, "Well, maybe I should start a business." So he got into business ownership by accident, really, because he had really no intentions of starting his own shop. So that summer I ended up going to tech college, and he kept M.R.S. going. And when I got done with tech college, and I naturally been around machining for the last 2 years, and when I went to tech college, this is easy. I've done this. I've seen this. And I whizzed my way through the manual projects, and I whizzed my way through the CNC. The math I struggle a little bit with, but doesn't everybody struggle with math anyway?
Yes.
So from there, I just told my dad, there's nothing at M.R.S., nothing in Augusta for me. I want to move away. So I moved up to about 2 hours north, back in the woods. I like to hunt and fish. I was kind of a quiet guy, and I found a shop. I worked there for 2 years. And what happened then is I worked there a year, and my dad asked me to come home on Saturday and start work, help him. I said, sure. I came home and helped him. Well, that got to be kind of a repetition. So I was working 50 hours there and then coming home on a Saturday and working probably 8 hours with him. And in '89, I got married. I met my wife up there, and that's thank God I met her, because you know what, Tony, I was heading down the wrong road.
Yeah, I think most men have that story. I mean, my dad tells us all the time, the key to a successful man is a good woman. Oh
yeah, and so I just got mixed up. I was raised. My mom and dad. My mom especially made me go to church, and
yep.
I basically went to church to make her happy, so I could do other things with my friends. And
yep.
And when I left the nest, that I am a free man. I can do whatever I want. And
yep.
So I met my wife, and then actually my father-in-law was the one that straightened me around, and he asked me, if anything religion, I would have nothing to do with it. And he asked me, hey, a couple of guys are getting together. We're just going to sit around and watch some football and talk. Oh, okay, I'm all for that. Well, I come walking in there. They have the football game on, and the last guy comes. He shut the TV off, and I kind of looked around, and it was on Monday night. And I go, well, what's happened to the football game? Well, we're just going to have a little prayer and study. And I'm like, okay. Well, anyways, there was a bunch of pastors and retired pastors and older men, and they got me involved in this Bible study group. And tell you what, that's what saved my life, because I had mentors. I had people hold me accountable and show me what the Word of God was. And I really devoted my life then, and that was actually in October of '88.
Okay.
And that's when my life changed around. So then I got married in '89. And the day of my wedding, my dad said, "You can come back and work full time for me." And I'm like, "No, Dad, I really love it up here. I got this new life." Well, 3 months later, here I am. I came back in '89, and me and my wife moved back, and we started working with my dad, and it was going really good. And for the first 2 years, it was all manual, do 2-car garage, and we actually hired a gal named Sharon. So that's where the M.R.S. everybody thought
Okay.
it stood for Matt, Roger, and Sharon.
Okay.
Well, it doesn't. It was a Mrs. because we're woman owned,
Oh, very nice.
and it doesn't stand for Matt's really smart either. But so this one day in about 91, I would just turn around. I shut my machine off. My dad was the guy that poked a stick. Get that machine going. We need these parts out. And I'm like, Dad, where are we going with M.R.S? We're small. I'm happy. And I'm like, you know what, Dad? I'm 20. I think I was 21, and I want to grow it. I didn't have a clue how to grow up in business, but I wanted to grow it. So,
Yeah.
okay, I'll back you. So, like every dad does. And so I started knocking on doors, making phone calls, click, click, click. Who are you? What are you doing? And do you have CNC? Well, I don't have CNC. Click. And finally, I had a tool salesman come in one day, and he was trying to sell me some tools, and he was a really nice guy. And I just asked him, hey, I'm trying to grow this place. What can I do? He goes, you know what? You guys do some really cool stuff here. I got a shop in the cities that I think you'd like to talk to. They asked me to see if they could find somebody.
Yeah.
So I went up there, and fortunately, I came home with a bunch of work. And now what did I just bite off more than I could chew? I just knew one thing from my farm background. Like I tell people, if they're going to go into business, they got to answer really 3 questions for sure. But the most important is you got to love what you do. If you love it, what you do, okay, then you can take the next step. The next step is you're going to have to devote it for the next 3 years, 24/7, 365, because you're going to have to live and breathe it to get your feet moving. Then you're going to have to sit down with your finances and be willing to risk everything you have, because capital equipment isn't cheap, as we all know. And then the most important one is you're going to get your family on board, because you might not see your wife as much, you might not see your family, your kids as much. If you can say yes to all 3 of those questions, plus love what you do, go into business for yourself.
Yeah, you have to have a very strong support system. I mean, running a business, owning a business is not for the faint at heart. It's not like, people think that you own the business, you get time off, you got all these perks and benefits and all these other things, when in reality, if you're doing it the right way, my opinion is, it becomes your hobby. It becomes your passion project. It becomes what you want to see succeed. And, your wife, kids, family, everybody's got to be on board with that. It's like training to be a professional athlete, right? You got to give it 100% of your time. When you're on, you got to be on. And that means sometimes some personal things might get put to the side, but at the end, it's worth it, because you can provide so much more. And I'm not saying that you don't pay attention to your kids or your family or things like that, but you have to give it everything that you have, if that's what you want to do, if you want it to be successful.
Yeah, most definitely. And I'm so glad what I did today, because what I have here now, it's not me, it's my team, and the culture we have here is amazing. So I'm very happy.
I say that same thing all the time, and I think it's cool that your business started because your dad was a good guy, right?
Yep.
He was looking out for somebody else that was in a bad spot and was having to close their facility, and he had space, and he said, yeah, you know what? I've got this space. I'm happy to share it with you. Come on, bring it over. I'll take care of it. And from there, all these other opportunities come up, right? I'm a big fan of saying yes to things and going for it. And do you know what the end result's going to be? Absolutely not. But if you say no, you know what the result is. Nothing happens. Yep. If you say yes, there's an opportunity for growth. There's an opportunity for that snowball to take effect and impact your life and other people's lives down the line. And more things keep coming into your life that wouldn't if you just took the easy road and said, nah, not interested.
Yep. Exactly. And sometimes it's not always your plan. It's God's plan. I always tell people.
Yeah. It's never my plan.
No, God has a plan. Sometimes you're just like, what in the world is he doing today? Or what is he doing tomorrow? And it's just like, okay, just take a deep breath. So anyway, yeah. Anyways,
I want to jump into that real quick. It's a hard thing for people to grasp, right? Depending on what their theology or what their belief is. You and I are very similar in that way, that we are believers. And so when something bad comes along, something hard, something that's less than ideal, I can deal with that, because I know that it's not my will, it's not my plan, but I don't know what I'm doing. right? I didn't create this whole system around us. I'm just living it, and doing what I can when I can do something. But I believe, like you do, that God is fully in control. He is in control of what's going on in my life. The position I'm in right now is a spot that I'm supposed to be for a reason that I'm not sure of yet, but He knows. And so when those struggles come, when those storms come, uh, you know, Crowder has a song where he says, "The same God that brings the storm is the same God that brings the sunshine." Right? It's
Yep.
one of those ways that he says it, and it's true. I think a lot of times God gets blamed for bad things, but doesn't get thanked for good things.
Yep.
And
Exactly.
you got to have both. And that's easy for me to say because that's my belief, and it makes my life a little bit easier. I'm not going to lie.
Yep. No, and that's when the storm clouds come up and you don't really have the answers. That's when you have to reach out to other Christian people, other people that know God, because maybe God's talking to them. And I've learned that, it's like you said, business is ups and downs. And I've been in the valleys and I've been in the storms, but then I've been as high as the mountains. And so that's why my ear is always open for somebody struggling, because I want
Yeah.
to help them. And if they're the believer or not, I want to be able to help them any way I can.
And it's funny that you said that about how God uses other people to talk to you. Today, I got a message from Greg Osborne. From I don't know, Greg. You change companies too often. I can't even say where you're from. I forget. But Greg Osborne sent me a message this morning, just out of the blue, and it's a picture of a new journal that he has, and it says, "Today is a blank canvas. What will you create?" And I was like, "That's awesome. Thanks for sending it to me." And he responded, and he said, "I don't know why, but I just pulled the cover off this quarters journal and your name popped into my head." And my answer was, "That's because God's using you to tell me something."
Mm-hmm.
And what am I going to create with today? I don't know, but this is part of it. So
Yeah, we'll get into my little story about being in the news here in the last month or two, which God laid on my heart, and
yeah,
I don't know if when you want to get into that, but I can finish telling my story if you
yeah. Go
want.
ahead,
Or
go ahead. I'm sorry, I keep
no,
interrupting
no,
you there.
no. This is what this is all about.
Yeah,
So, anyways, see, I was back in '92. Yep, I worked. Then we started doing work, and we were in our garage, and one day my mom says, "You need to get out of the house. Your dad's taking work too seriously. He's in and out of there." And I want to go back to '88. I forgot to bring this up. My dad suffered a massive heart attack, and I wasn't home. I was in Hayward, of course, and I got a call like at 2 a.m. and said, "Hey, your dad suffered a major heart attack, and he's not going to make it." Well, I'm 2 hours away. So I hop in the car. I just race home, and I get to the hospital. I didn't even know what hospital. I was so freaked out. I just hopped in the car and drove to my aunt and uncle's, who called me and told me where he was in the hospital. So I went over there, and they said the next 24 hours is not going to be good. And my mom, I didn't really know what happened, but anyways, my dad got better, and and about 3 or 4 months later, he just started talking to him one day, and he just broke down crying. And they say once you have a heart attack, your emotions are a little heavier. And he goes, Matt, I don't know why I'm here. I go, well, I know why you're here. And he goes, no. He said, did they tell you what happened to me? And I said, yeah, you had a heart attack. He goes, what did they tell you? I was clinically dead. And I'm like, no, you never told me that. He goes, I was in the most wonderful place in the whole world. I didn't want to come back. He says, I get goosebumps right now. I might break down crying, but my dad says, I seen the light, and I seen the flowers in the fields, and what he had is a near life experience.
yeah.
And he said, God brought me back, and he says, I still have a purpose for you on this earth. And what's really funny about it, 25 years later, almost to the day, he passed away. So
Okay.
that's kind of a story. But anyways, so
No, I mean that's a cool thing, right?
Yeah.
And maybe was your father a believer when that happened?
Yeah, he was.
Okay.
He wasn't the one that go to church every Sunday, but
Yeah.
he was a believer in heart. He was kind of the quiet person, but
Yeah.
and over those years, he had always just give me another image or two throughout the. He did I ever tell you this when I was on that? I seen this or I seen that, so it was neat, and he's helped a lot. He was a kind of a silent helper,
Yep.
and so I've taken that that to my heart, and I kind of want to be more like him. You know, that's one thing I've always done. Since then, he's passed on, and that's another part of my story I can get to.
Yeah,
So
it's having that father figure is really important. I feel bad, genuinely feel bad for people that don't have that kind of father in their lives to be able to share that stuff with. I feel blessed every single day that I get to come to work and work with my father. Sometimes he is a pain in the butt, and he'll be the first to admit it. But you know, he created something amazing, and he's given us opportunities that we couldn't even, you know, fathom on our own. And so the fact that every day or most days I get to come into work and work side by side with him and make decisions with him and pick his brain and learn what he's doing and why he does the things that he does, it's invaluable. And I don't take it for granted ever. Especially now as I'm getting older, not that I'm super old yet. My kids say I'm old. That my kids say that I'm past middle age, and I disagree because I plan on living longer than 86, which would make me at middle age. So I think I'm still young, but I feel bad when people don't have that person in their lives to teach them those things and help them learn those things. And like I was saying, as I'm getting older, so are my friends, and unfortunately, they're losing their parents, and it's sad. And I got to tell you, I am not ready for that at all. And I'm hoping it doesn't happen for a little while. But, yeah.
So my dad had like 5 heart surgeries, and we always thought his heart was going to get him, and his heart was not well. But that's not what got him. He got a rare lung disease, and he was given 2 years to live. And you know, you can plan for it, Tony. And, you know, every day was like a little cry wolf, it seemed like.
Yep.
And finally, one day I was at this career show up in Eau Claire at the tech college, and I got a call, and hey, your dad's not doing well. You better hurry down here. So I hopped in the car, went to Rochester, Minnesota, and I get in the walk in his hospital bed, and there he is eating ice cream. And I'm like, oh, here we go again, another false alarm. Well, 24 hours later, he passed away.
Yeah.
And, you know, I got to say goodbye. I was very blessed for that. And we got through the first 6 months before he passed away, we had a business plan. He laid out what he'd like to see someday. And so I was very thankful for that.
Yeah.
But, you know, it hit me like a box of rocks. I mean,
I'm sure.
You can plan for it, but you can't.
No.
When it hit, and I just basically felt like I was cut in half.
Yep.
And I couldn't even come to M.R.S. for like 3 months. I was so emotional. And, you know, then we started talking about, did Matt need counseling or whatever? But, you know, I just started asking people to pray for me. And that's when until I started doing that about a month later, then it started to heal.
Yep.
And, you know, and so anyways, you know, it wasn't a tropical paradise with my dad, but I tell people, treat your day, every day like it's your last day. You know, don't try to burn bridges, try to help people, and don't hold grudges, because it's not worth it. Life's too short.
Absolutely.
And so,
but based on what you were saying, the plans that your dad was laying out for the business, what he would like to see happen, everything like that, are you on that path? Are you going down that direction?
Yep, we pretty much went down that path. But what made it a little more intense, while my dad was sick, my mom had diagnosed with cancer.
Okay.
And she was given 18 months. So I lost my dad, my grandma, and my mom all within 18 months.
Wow.
So I got a little off course, I have to say.
I would imagine. I mean, those are a couple large stumbling blocks and walls to kind of maneuver around.
So my dad always wanted to give back to the people here in some way or some form. And, you know, we always looked at the e-stop, trying to get an e-stop company coming. And that just, nothing really clicked on me. You know, I've asked a lot of people, I reached out, and what I ended up doing is I ended up finally hiring a CFO that could help me with the finance part and give me the vision. I didn't need someone full time. I just need someone that been around the business, and he's still here today. He does a wonderful job.
Good.
And so I just told him I have to get back. So we ended up doing is giving 40% of the profit back to all the people here.
Okay.
And, you know, we have had a couple good years.
That's a huge thing. I mean, that's an impactful amount, right? As a business owner, as a employee, or as a team member, that's a generous amount. That's a big offering for a business to do. Was it scary doing that?
No, it wasn't scary. I felt comfortable, and to this
Good.
day, I still feel comfortable doing it. You know, I can tell you in the last probably 3 years, it's been over $1 million, Tony.
Wow.
And so now these people feel like they're owners, because if they make a scrap part, it's really 40%. And I feel comfortable, but so I know they're trying harder. And
Yep.
we actually, when we did this in about the first 6 months, our revenue went up about 15 or 20%, just because people took the ownership now.
Wow.
And we got more out the door. The scrap went down, and it's a wonderful thing. But there's always hiccups along the way and issues we have to deal with, and how much, if someone's been here 10 years, does he get more than a guy that's been here a year or two? So we figured that all out. We set some rules, and we got everybody's input.
Yep.
So that's one thing we do here. Everybody's input's important, and
Yep.
we have weekly meetings, and like I said, I get voted down. I want a new machine, or I want this new cutting tool, and they're like, we don't need it. So
we're good. Keep the profit coming.
Yeah. But so I just, I kind of stay out of the way and let them run it. And then I try to give them direction and leadership so they can become leaders someday. And
Yep.
That's what we do here at M.R.S. And I guess I never really got into where we're at or what we make. We're a job shop. We actually sell time and service, and we're a high mix, low volume. We do a lot of 50 piece runs or less are kind of our niche. We do longer run stuff. My average age is 32, and
impressive. That's impressive.
And that's where it comes back to me. When I was in high school, growing up, I was told I deserved it because I was a great person. Nowadays, it's probably different, but I had a teacher telling me that don't go to college, Matt. You're not fit for it.
Sure.
You're going to end up at just some factory low ball job. And I'm like, what? To this day, that motivates me. And my boss wanted to pay for my school, so that kind of like, okay, I got to start doing something. So in 2000, I tried starting my own school.
Okay.
And I didn't know where to look for people, but I just thought these fast food restaurants are people that never went to college, and that's the reason they're working.
Yeah.
And I hired 6 of them, and within like a year, I lost. It gone. I failed miserably at it.
What do you think failed about that? Because I've had that same thought because right now it's very difficult to hire people, right? And I've had that same thought when I go to McDonald's with my mom for lunch or whatever, and thinking, man, I wonder if they'd take an opportunity for a different job.
Yeah, they were all eager. I mean, at the time, yeah, you start talking benefits, you start talking set hours, you start talking vacations, and you start talking 401k and that kind of stuff. And that attracted them. And I think where I failed at is I probably wasn't the leader I am today. I didn't really have a plan. I needed to put I always say a plan without a goal, without a plan is called failure. And I didn't really have a plan. I just started throwing stuff at them, and I probably should have took them a little more underneath my wing. It wasn't a bad deal. I mean, some of them actually, I'm still in contact with them today, and they still appreciate the opportunity they took. And I just needed to know how to get better. And that's when, I met this guy. I was going to this baseball game one day, and he said, hey, I got this guy working for me part-time. He wants to become a school teacher. You got to meet him. And I said, sure, I'll meet him. And back in 2006, we were at M.R.S. down in Chicago, and I would imagine some of your listeners been there.
Yep.
And
big show.
All great.
Big show.
All great things happen at M.R.S. It's a Super Bowl of manufacturing.
Yep.
I love the people. I love the staff. The AMT is a great company.
Yep.
Anyways, we didn't have cell phones then, so we just had to pick a time and a place. And I met Craig, and within the first minute, I'm like, this guy's got it. I mean, it just gives you goosebumps talking to him. Yeah. And he was telling me he wanted to start a job shop up in high school. And I'm like, okay. So anyways, I said, when you get your job,
so you say school, yes again. I mean, I see a pattern of yes. Yeah, you got to meet this guy. Yes. Let's do this. Yes. Let's just do it.
Yep. I don't take no for an answer. When I believe in something, I do not take a no for an answer. I'll find a way. And that's lots of other stories I've been writing up in the press. So anyways, we met. He came. He told me he had a job at Eleva-Strum. He came over and told me what my dad was going to do. And my dad always said one hand was for giving and one hand was for receiving. And he goes, today my hands were giving. I think, to be honest with you, I think he offered half our equipment in our shop to him. I'm like, whoa, Dad. I said, whoa, Dad, we got the cart in front of the horse. He needs a year or two to get it fixed up, cleaned up, but that's his vision. So we ended up getting a lathe for him, a CNC lathe, a CNC mill, and I think a saw. But it wasn't just so much us. Craig knew he needed other industrial partners, and he's got several of them. He's got Nexen, he's got OEM, he's got all kinds of them. He's got Ashley Furniture now. I mean, Ashley's given, I think, $1 million to the program or some ridiculous number, and that place just sings.
Yeah,
and what attracts me to it. And I always tell people, if I wasn't a business owner, I'd probably become a school teacher. When I started working with his kids with him, he'd ask me to come speak to him, and I started interacting with him. And first thing I noticed, these kids don't have that fatherly figure. They're someone from broken homes. They don't have a path. They just, and I said, hey, I got to take these kids underneath my wing. It's kind of like Awana, you get kids, and I just started putting positive thoughts in their head and trying to give them some leadership and give them a path and where you're going and what are you doing. And
everybody needs a mentor. Everybody needs that person that they can go to give them that encouragement, give them that pat on the back, that attaboy, that you can do this kind of attitude. And it doesn't matter if you're dealing with a kindergartner, a third grader, or a high schooler, or an adult. Those are all really, really critical things to be giving people. And especially, like you said, you're noticing these are people that maybe they came from a broken home and they haven't had that ever. And at first they don't know what to do with it. It's a foreign thing for people to be proud of them or encourage them or be that person. But in reality, it's critical. I mean, you got to have that in your life. You have to have people to build you up, and you have to be willing to build others up. Even if it's outside of your comfort zone or outside of your organization, even just going down the street and or at the grocery store, you see somebody's shirt and you like it and you say, hey, that's a great shirt. It makes people smile and it makes an impact on their lives. And it's great that you recognize that about yourself on how much that means to you. To me, that's one of those signs that means that you're a good leader.
Yeah. And it just, when you started seeing these kids, like everybody's got a gift.
Yep.
And you have to help them find that gift and talent, and then they can become fruitful. And I learned that through a few Bible verses over the years. And another thing I like to do, Tony, is when you're at the gas station or grocery store, you just say hi, hello, have a good day.
Yep.
That's all you got to say. You don't have to say anything more. You don't have to bring up any other stuff. Just say hi, smile, and have a good day. Well, last year you couldn't really smile because you have a mask over your face, but
right.
At least you could just say hello, have a good day. And
which I will say to this day, that's one of the reasons that people were so depressed last year, is because nobody could smile at each other. Everybody thought everybody was just angry all the time. And no, there were some people that were just angry all the time. But being able to smile at somebody and see that back is such an energy transfer. It's amazing.
Just like a conversation, I think, I'm not good at emails. I'm horrible at grammar. I failed at that big time, and I really need to work there. But, words are one thing. It's easy to text. It's easy to send an email.
Yep.
Tone of voice is 20% of the conversation, but 70% of our conversations that we're doing right now, you can see the facial expressions.
Yep.
You can feel the energy. That's what a true conversation is. Is it just typing emails or texting? And that's what I hate about cell phones. I think we've gotten so far out of control, and that's why a lot of people are depressed, and you just need to interact. And that was so tough last year. It made it hard for me because I like going to schools. I like interacting with kids, and that was taken away from me. And it was hard, but now I'm so glad to get somewhat back to normal.
Yeah. So I'm looking at your notes here, and I want to see, what is the story of how to get folks into manufacturing? What is creating a new box?
Yeah, everybody says go think around the box, create a new box. So I just said I'm going to make my own new box. And so how do you get kids into manufacturing? How do you interact with kids?
That's the $1 million question. I'm telling you, we are at the AMBA conference. That's the question that everybody is asking right now. Where do you get these kids from, and how do you get them into our sandbox?
I don't have I can't answer that question 100%. I wish I had all the answers, but like I said, I don't take no for an answer. And that's why I got into sports officiating.
Okay.
Because you couldn't, or I got on the school board. I just started helping out in the community, and that's the big thing. First thing you gotta do is leave your building. I mean, you just can't sit back and I can sit here and come up with excuses. So leave your building, go to their building. You should know every superintendent and every principal in your community by first name basis. That's the number one. But then in sports, I'd get doors slammed, and so I started sports officiating, and you start calling games, and you start naturally interact with the coach, and if you make good calls, he's probably your friend. If you make bad calls, but most coaches are pretty cool about it, and you just say, "Hey, coach, can I come talk to your kids?" And why would you want to do that? And I said, well, first of all, I want being in the business and growing up in life, working at places, you got to be team building, and I want to tell them that why you have to have team building skills and get along, and it'll go along and help. And I tell them that's it's on the court, what's on the field. We have to have team skills.
Yep.
And I want to throw my 5 minutes of manufacturing in there, and they're like, great, come tomorrow. Well, I come in the back door, so that's my new box. I just, it would take me months to do what I just did. So you start talking to the coaches, and you start talking to the kids, and you start, look at your helmet, look at your shoes. Them are all manufactured, and here's how you make them. And kids are like, they get intrigued by that. And then next thing you know is like, hey, you want to come and job shadow for a day?
Yep.
Come and visit, and I'll show you some more cool stuff. And that's
not only that. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, that's just how you get kids involved.
Yeah.
And then you get one or two, you're going to get about 5 or 6 right behind them. So,
and if you can build that trust with the coach who has the trust with the kids, now they trust you because they trust their coach. Same thing with their parents. If the parents obviously trust the coach, and so Coach so-and-so says this is a good idea, I should go give it a shot. Now the parents are involved, and they're on board, and they think this is a real thing. The kids come home and they say, hey, we had this guy from M.R.S. come in and talk to us about teamwork and leadership. And he also mentioned the stuff about manufacturing. I think it's kind of cool. I might check it out. Now you got buy-in from the parents. That's the critical thing that everybody talks about is you got to get mom and dad on board, because if mom and dad get on board, now there's an opportunity.
Yep. And then another thing we did is open your shop up, open your building up. Our 25th anniversary, my dad wanted a big powwow, and I call it powwow. So we invited the community in, and we didn't run any machines. We had, barcades, but we had the machine. We had a raw piece of material. We had what the part looked like, and we had a description of what the part did and a picture of it. Oh my gosh, we had like 300 people come. And,
it's awesome.
And out of that, we probably got like 12 to 24 people applying for jobs. I mean, we're in a small town. We got 1,500 people here, Tony.
Yeah.
And 12 people to apply for a job, that's a lot for us.
That's awesome.
And then they knew people that wanted to move back to the area. And I think to this day, we still get people talking about that. And that was 10 years ago. So
that's great. That's what the idea of Manufacturing Day is all about, right? Opening the shop and letting schools and kids and parents and, whoever it is come in and see how things are being made and what that actually looks like. One of the other hot topics going around that you have on here is women in manufacturing. Why do you feel so passionate about women in manufacturing?
Well, first of all, there's not enough women in manufacturing.
Agreed.
And we need to get more women, because that's half our power, half our brain power and knowledge. Yep. And the first thing that, M.R.S. is a woman-owned company. Actually, my wife owns 51%. I own 49%. So she's my boss at home. She's my boss here. But the first thing I notice about women, and I tell kids at school, is what do women do? They comb their hair, they put makeup on, they all look pretty.
Yep.
And what do you think they do to their parts?
Yeah.
Bingo. Us guys, we don't care if we put the straw hat on and jump out of bed and go to work, and and us guys, we can only seem like do more than 2 things at once. I find women can do like 20 things at once. They're multitasking. They're attention to detail. They have what it takes to do manufacturing. We just need to get the word out there and show them. And I think I have about 8 or 9 of my women working here, and they're good leaders. They do a wonderful job. And I don't think everybody like, oh, you're a waiter. They think women should be waitresses and nurses. No. And that's not true. And I mean, all the women here are excelling, and they want to do more. And probably one of my best machinists over the years. The only problem with them, they have babies. So, one of my best.
At some point, they're going to go away for a little bit.
Yeah,
that's a fact.
Yeah.
But
Yep.
hey, hopefully they make more good workers, more people to fill the team. But I agree with you. There's also a different energy when you have women in your facility, whether that's in the shop, whether that's in the offices. There's a different kind of energy that you have when that happens, and I think it's a positive energy. It's a change. You get people. You can have a lot of alpha males and a lot of ego and a lot of bravado and all that stuff going on. And if you bring and you might think it's the opposite where people want to show off then, but it's not. I've loved having more women in our facility for all of those reasons. I am not a details person. I'm a big picture concept kind of guy, and then I need people around me like Mary Kate, like Jessica, like name the person that's here, like my wife, to help me fill in those details and ask me those questions that I haven't thought about yet. I think up here, right? And then all of this needs to get filled in by people who are smarter and better at that stuff than I am. And it's so important.
Yeah. My head person, our head sales lady here, she's actually my first cousin, grew up on the farm, and she lost her job at an office store, and she came to use our fax machine one day, and I said, why do you need that? She goes, I want to fax my resume. That's back when we had fax machines. I took it and threw it in the garbage, and I said, just start tomorrow. And she said, I know nothing about this. I said, I'll teach you. And today she's like the metal expert. You need to question the material certs. She knows it inside and out. And she does all our coding and estimating. She never went to school for machining, but she's pretty sharp.
Yep.
So
it's great. And it's got to be a way to find more people that want to do that too, right? It's an awesome thing. So I did watch your Fox News broadcast, and we're going to put that link in the page notes. How did that happen? Tell me how that happened, because I'm trying to figure that out. I'm trying to figure out how you, Nicole, Alex Hoffer, Nicole Walter, that is, how do you all keep getting these interviews, and why does nobody want to talk to me?
Oh, okay. Well, I'm going to go back the last time. I say back in February, March. I started getting something, I talk about God laying things in your heart. And I got to the point to where people are here to notice, like, what's bothering you, Matt? Like, I don't know. Something's just, someone wants me to do something. God wants me to do something. I just can't figure out what it was. So back at IMTS, I'm going to bring that up again because all great things happen at IMTS. And IMTS isn't more about looking at machines, but it's more interacting with people and get to know people. And I ran into a guy by the name of Scott Paul, who was actually from Chicago area. He's a Alliance for Manufacturers. He's a lobbyist out in Washington, D.C., and he's always on CNBC and all the networks. And
I met that guy a couple times. He's a nice guy.
Yeah, great guy. And we just got on Instagram with him, tweeted with him a little bit. We interact, we send emails, we just keep in touch and family-wise. And so one day I get this email from the New York Times, and I'm like, what the heck is the New York Times emailing me? I deleted it. Boom, gone. Well, about a half hour later, he emailed me again and said, hey, we want to interview you about manufacturing and jobs and how your company's handling it. And, oh, by the way, they mentioned the word Scott Paul. Okay, I know Scott, and really, I respect Scott greatly. So can we call you tomorrow at 10? So they called me tomorrow at 10, and they asked me a zillion questions, and like we're doing now. And we're thinking about writing an article. Okay, well, I thought, okay, they're just looking for some research, and that's great.
Yeah.
Oh, about a week later, he wrote up an article and goes, what do you think of it? And I go, well, that's a pretty nice article. He goes, well, we might run it, but we're not for sure. Well, the very next morning, I started getting phone calls and emails and say, hey, nice article. Your name's in the New York Times. I'm like, New York Times? Why would mine? Oh, yeah. And and it was great. And all of a sudden, just kiddingly at the office, I said, it won't be long, and one of those fancy news experts will call me. Well, I'm sitting here eating my lunch at my desk, and my general manager comes in. She said, Fox News is on the phone. And I'm like, oh, I'm thinking like Fox 4, the local one, right?
Yeah, because you're an official. They want to talk about the games or what's going on, right?
Yeah. So they said, hey, we want to interview you. And I said, okay. And I said, when? You said, well, next Wednesday. And I'm still thinking local news, right? I'm not thinking national news.
Right.
And so I'll email you. She emailed me and she said, I need your Skype and I need some bio on you and stuff. So I did. And she said, thank you. Well, I was like on a Wednesday or Tuesday. And no, never heard another word. And Tuesday afternoon, so she said, you'll be interviewed Wednesday. I replied back, and I'm thinking, is this spam? Is this some guy that got my name off the New York Times, spamming me and stuff? And anyways, I emailed back, and she said, yeah, someone from our tech guy will call you to make sure you can lock in your computer. So he did. I go, what is Liz going to ask me? Well, I don't know. That's a producer's question. The producer will call you at noon. So the producer calls me at noon, and she said, I think his name was Tim, or forget what the guy's name. But anyways, he said, everything working good? Yep. And she kind of went over some stuff, but I go, what's Liz going to ask me? And she goes, I don't know. That Liz will have to tell you, and you'll have time. She'll have a couple of 3-4 minutes before you go on air that Liz will ask you questions, and we'll call you at 2:10. So 2:10 comes, nothing. 2:15 comes, nothing. Now I'm supposed to be live 2:25.
Yep.
2:20 comes, my cell phone rings. I'm like, what the heck's someone calling me? Unknown. I hang up. And then it rings again. I'm like, well, this is kind of weird. So I better answer it. And all of a sudden it's like, Steve. I'm like, no, this is Matt. Well, this is Steve from Fox News. We've been trying to get a hold of you. And I'm like, okay. So we tried to get in the computer, and that wasn't working. This wasn't working. Now it's 2:23, and 2 minutes before live TV. And so we finally got it to work, and all of a sudden she said, you'll hear Liz come in and talk to you, and right before commercial break. So I hear live, and then all of a sudden it cuts out, and Liz comes in, and she says, hey, Matt, yada, yada, yada. We love your story. We think you're a great company, a great guy. I'm excited to interview you. And I go, well, Liz, what are you going to ask me? And she goes, well, we'll find out in about 30 seconds, won't we? And she goes, Matt, I want you to do 2 things, smile and have fun. And literally what felt like 20 seconds was like about 4 minutes. And all those questions were off the seat of I didn't know what she was going to ask me. But I got made a lot of friends through it. And that's probably why I'm sitting here talking to you today, Tony. So it was something I feel like God wanted me to do. And maybe people have heard my story, have heard something and learned something and made them a better person. That's what it's all about. It's not about me. I just hope that's what happens. And I still think something else greater is even going to happen out of it. I don't know. We'll see. But I would have never dreamt of that. I mean, I'm a kid from a small town.
It was cool. It was cool to watch. I watched the whole thing through, and it's a short interview, but it's nice to see the mainstream media recognizing you and being able to tell that story, and having the support of it. Right. You'd like to see other networks pick up and run with it and make something like that happen. But it's hard. Have you ever hired anyone because of it?
It's
because of the interview.
Yeah, I guess I'd have to say one of the last people I hired kind of seen that, and like, I'm not a different person or anything, but it's kind of like when you run for school board. Once you run for school board in a local town, people think of you different. I just think he kind of made it like, ooh, you were on Fox News. Like, well, so, I mean, anybody could be on Fox News. It's not, I was just telling my story. I think it will help. I think what will help is when I go into schools and to show kids, because if I put that on like a little clip, here's what you can do in small towns, set your goals big and create a plan, and here's what could happen. I think that's what will really help.
I think that's a cool thing. Mary Kate and I we spoke at the AMBA conference, and one of the things that we talked about is that idea of saying yes to those opportunities, whether it's a podcast interview, a news interview, a magazine article, whatever that is. It's important to get your business, your message, your perspective out for people to see. It may not have an immediate result, but 5, 10, 15 years down the line, somebody's going to see that. And they're going to see that you weren't just sitting by on the wayside hoping for things to get better. You were actually voicing your opinion, your concern, sharing your stories, your anecdotes, and trying to make an impact and a difference in the world around you, which is critical. I mean, people want to do business with people that want to do more. I think that's who I want to work with. I don't necessarily want to work with a person that is, locking themselves in their basement and keeping all their ideas to themselves, and they don't want to be out there. I want to be somebody, and as a company, we want to be somebody that makes an impact in people's lives, however that works out, whether it's the podcast, whether it's the work we do, whether it's outreach, whether it's sharing our knowledge in anything from marketing to mold repair to welding and whatever it is. If we can help somebody, that's crucial. My father taught me that a long time ago. And he said, if you can help somebody, you should.
Yep.
Go out of your way. If somebody's pulled over on the side of the road, stop and ask them if they need assistance. If you can do something that somebody can't and you can help them, you should help them.
Yep.
It's part of being a good person, really.
Yep.
And it's a hard thing for people to wrap their head around. But real quick, I want to mention that we're gonna do prayer requests. I know that Mary Kate put a post up there about prayer requests. So if you're watching, if you're listening, and you have any prayer requests, go ahead and put those in the chat, and we will mention them. We're approaching the 1 hour mark. We're doing good here, Matt. Okay. I think at some point we'll probably have to come on and do a sequel episode. I think that would be fun to do. But for now, are there any prayer requests that you have?
Yeah, I have one. A lady by the name Charlie Matthews. She's Empower for Women, and I did a podcast with her about 2 or 3 weeks ago. And tomorrow she's having a heart surgery. She's a young lady. She's a wonderful person. She's helped so many people and lifting them up, and it's kind of the things we were talking about. And I just told her I think we need to pray for her. So her name's Charlie Matthews, and we could just say a little prayer to make sure God heals her and touches her. I would like that.
All right. I'm going to pray for us real quick, and then we'll just do a quick follow-up and call it a day, and we can both go on our way and accomplish big things today. So, Heavenly Father, thank you for today. Thank you for this opportunity to talk with Matt and share his story and his belief and his faith and his testimony that your will is what matters, not ours. And all good things happen for a reason. Even if we don't understand that reason, you do. So whatever's happening with his friend Charlie, we know that however it turns out, your will is there, and you'll use all things for good, even if we don't understand it. But we pray for healing. We pray for help. We pray for those of us, those around us who are scared or lonely or depressed or struggling with life and death situations. We pray that you would be there with us and with them, and that you would give us support and strength and courage for everything that we're going through. We pray that you would be with our businesses and our teams, and that you would watch over us and keep us safe. And we love you. We trust you. And it's in Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
Matt, how can people get a hold of you and reach out to you for conversations and jobs and have your company do some work for them?
Well, one thing I learned from kids, you can Google me. Just Google Matt Guse. You'll definitely find me. And then I'm also Matt Guse under LinkedIn. And you can reach me out there. That's probably the two easiest and quickest ways to get a hold of me. And I'd be happy to help anybody listening.
And I'm going to tell you, if you reach out to him, he's going to respond, and he's going to respond quickly. That's a thing that I notice about Matt. There's no time to dilly-dally. He's going to get this done so that you guys can get your project done or get your request in, because he's a difference maker. And so, Matt, before I let you go, I just want to say thank you to you for being part of our show, being part of the industry, and most importantly, for sharing your story with not only me, but the kids around you in the schools, and making an impact on their lives in a positive way. There's a lot of people out there that are just looking to take. And what I could appreciate you right off the bat, just from our back and forth on LinkedIn, is you're a person that wants to give back and help those around you. So thank you for that.
Yep. Well, thank you too for getting the word out.
All right, Matt, I'm going to let you go, and we'll pick this up in a part 2 sometime down the line. So thank you for everything that you do, and have a wonderful rest of your week and a great weekend.
Yep, you too.
All right, everybody. Once again, I want to thank you for watching and listening to the Manufacturing Alliance podcast. We've got a really interesting show next week that you're not going to want to miss. It is going to, I'm going to spoil it because we're going to put the promotion out there early. It's going to be guest hosted by my friend Glenn Starkey from Progressive Components. I unfortunately am going to be out of town on a little missions trip with my family, so that's going to be great. But Glenn Starkey, the entertainer of Progressive Components and of the AMBA, is going to be guest hosting, and his guest is going to be none other than my father. So between the two of them, I'm telling you, there's going to be entertainment. They may actually take my job, and from now on, you'll just hear from them, and that'll be a thing. But it'll be okay if it was better for everybody else. So tune in next week, Wednesday at 11:30, to get Glenn Starkey and my father, John DeMakis, the founder of Alliance Specialties and Laser Sales. And it will be a very entertaining show, I promise. So thank you guys for watching. Thank you for listening. On behalf of myself, Matt, the M.R.S. team, and Alliance Specialties and Laser Sales, take care and God bless.